In the clips that I'm about to show, Cameron Bertuzzi from Capturing Christianity is interviewing Frank Turek, one of the top Christian apologists out there today. There's a question from the audience. Is the Bible compatible with evolution?
Okay, so this is the first question,
All right.
okay? And this is from our patrons. So the first one is the Bible compatible with evolution, meaning common ancestry is true, but the process was guided?
I like Cameron's channel, by the way. As for Frank, I respect the courage it takes to get up in front of a large group of college kids, a live audience, and take all their questions. Anyway, let's see what Frank says.
Well, it depends on what you mean by that. If you mean biblical inerrancy, it doesn't appear to be compatible because you've got God creating Adam out of the dust, not out of pre-existing animal forms. So I would say no.
So I've got an issue here. Is he implying that the Bible is not inerrant if the genre of early Genesis is not history? So are the Psalms not inerrant? And what about Jesus' parables? I could go on. Does a passage have to be written in the genre of history to be inerrant? What must be going on here is that Frank is stuck in a mental trap of viewing early Genesis literally. Cameron picks up on this inerrancy issue and asks Frank to clarify. Then Frank digs his hole deeper.
So why do you say that we'd have to reject? Is that what you're saying? We'd have to reject biblical inerrancy in order to
Well, yeah,
adopt?
if we're going to say, or unless we're just going to allegorize the whole thing and say
Okay.
when Genesis says that God created Adam out of the dust, that was just a metaphor of some kind for
He talks dismissively about the idea that God created Adam out of dust may not be literal. He's dismissive of the possibility that it's metaphor. But yeah, it is metaphorical language. This is about genre. If you are trapped in a literal mindset, like Frank seems to be, it can seem like there's no way it can be a story. But once you learn to see early Genesis as of the genre of ancient mythology or mythohistory, which convey truth but use metaphorical language to do so, it is hard to see the account any other way than as a story. God forming man out of dust and woman out of a rib does read like a story. Now Cameron, a skilled interviewer, presses Frank, maybe tries to bail him out, throw him a rope. This can really be just an interpretive difference, he points out.
Well, so what if someone said that that's the correct interpretation? So, right, there's different interpretations of scripture. So maybe they just say that the correct interpretation sort of leaves it an open question of how God brought about life. So
Well,
it wouldn't reject inerrancy or even inspiration. It would just be, this is a different interpretation of this biblical passage.
Right.
Frank doesn't take the rope.
I think you can do that with some passages. That one seems pretty clear to me.
Which
though,
one?
That God creates Adam out of the dust. He doesn't create him out of pre-existing life forms. He seems to directly, divinely create Adam out of the dust. So all the other animals are created, and then you get man. So
Yeah. Well,
it would seem to be an odd interpretation to say that we could fit evolution in there.
Yeah.
He says, God doesn't create out of pre-existing life forms in the text. But again, this is just a category error. God isn't giving us a biology lesson. And again, Frank just can't shake free from the literal reading. In the text, God creates out of dust. How does that disqualify it as a story? And one more thing, he says it would be an odd interpretation to fit evolution into the text. But why would evolution be in the Bible to begin with? What use would it have been for God to teach the ancient Israelites about evolution? So then Cameron tries to at least give Frank the chance to walk back to some milder position. Maybe animals are the result of evolution, but man is directly created? Once more, Frank keeps digging. The literal reading says no evolution, so no evolution. End of story.
Some theologians think that you could have like a separate event of God creating man specifically, but then everyone else or all the other life forms sort of going through the evolutionary process. And so God sort of specially creates man somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. I'd have to see what kind of argumentation they give for that.
Yeah.
But it seems to be he's creating the life forms individually through the days, and then you get to man in day 6 and he creates them.
But there's a bright spot, seriously. He affirms that whether or not evolution is true, God exists and Jesus rose. And I have to commend him for that.
But even if macroevolution were true, and I don't think it is, but even if it were true, that wouldn't mean Christianity was false. It would give us problems for biblical inerrancy in the Old Testament, but it wouldn't mean Christianity was false. God could still exist and Christianity could still be true because Jesus came and died and rose from the dead. So
I think Frank would be a more effective apologist, especially with the college students he likes to speak to, if he didn't cling to a literal interpretation of early Genesis. But I'm glad he recognizes that this is an issue we can disagree on and still be Christians.